Righto, money miners, look at this bloody thing of Axis Mining Tech Champ Ori. You see that, Trav? Shorter.
It's as short as a burger ring.
Mate, shorter. That is how good is it?
Great example of the innovation you get out of these guys.
A bloody driller and Gio's best friend, the Champ Ori, Champ Gyro, Axis Mining Tech.
What have we got on today, mate?
Mate, you are finally doing the bloody Waterfall Chart how-to. Before the quarterly season, Trav is... You can't say that Trav is whinging and bitching after this because he is about to tell you everything that will create an issue for him.
It's service on a silver platter. There's going to be no excuses after this.
Getting on the front foot. So
I'm sure you're going to get a lot of CFOs writing in saying thanks to you after this one, mate.
Yeah. We got a heap of those letters in the opposite sort of tone last time. So, mate, looking forward to that. Boss Energy pumping out a few bloody drums of yellow cake. They wouldn't get as much attention from you, Trav, if they didn't sell all those shares. Like, we wouldn't...
Sell more drums and less shares, I'll be happy.
Yeah, you are honing in on them now.
Oh, mate, I'll find it.
You will find something. Oh, far out. What else got, boys? Been a couple of pre-quarterlies from Westgold, Capricorn. What
and
else?
A bit of Chalice.
Oh, Chalice.
An MOU with Mitsubishi, which we're going to have a little chat about.
And another AFR article. Who would have thought?
Beautiful.
Right, Trav, take it away, mate. Trav's 101. Yep. This was actually requested by Darren Stralo.
I don't know if he asked for it, did he?
I think he sent you a message back in the day after you probably ripped through the Bellevue one and said, Trav, why don't you do an actual how-to on the waterfall charts?
No, he asked me to do a thing on
Pump.
On what I actually reckon would be good remuneration.
Oh, right.
Like how to structure good remuneration.
No, I think he asked me to do this as well.
Okay.
So thanks for doing it for me, Trav.
No worries.
Right. I don't even think you've got a screenshot of a Bellevue one in there, which I can't believe.
No, fit the bill. Anyway.
Right, take it away, mate.
Quarterly season is upon us, Matty JD. And last quarterly season, one of the themes was shithouse waterfall charts. Not going to name any names here, I will. But let's start a new chapter. We thought we'd come up with Money of Mine's Guide to a Good Waterfall Chart this quarterly season. There's just a few solid principles to keep in mind when creating a good waterfall chart, Matty JD.
Trav, just for anyone that may have just tuned in recently, what is a waterfall chart?
You're just reconciling the cash you had at the end of the last quarter to the cash you've got at the end of this quarter.
Yep.
Simple as that, right? And yet somehow a lot of fucking companies make it not very fucking simple. So the CFOs out there, lucky you, you don't need to get a CFA or frankly even a degree to learn what the principles are. I'm going to tell you what these principles are for free.
I can't believe we're still free.
Underpinning all of these rules is just one fucking thing. Make it easy as possible for investors to understand if the company is making or losing cash. Don't obfuscate that. Make it transparent.
Trav, but do you think that the ones that are easiest to understand are the ones that are usually making cash and the ones that are harder to deduce are the ones that are possibly losing it? Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, I think in general, like there's definitely correlation with that.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Righto.
List of principles.
Go through the principles, Trav.
Number one, mate. Show us cash, not liquidity, right? I care about the cash balance you have at the bank. You know, if you have further liquidity available to draw down, great. Tell me in a bullet point. But your waterfall chart should start with cash balance at the last quarter and end with cash balance this quarter. And if you are a gold producer only, and only if you're a gold producer, will we allow you to group cash and bullion on hand together for the start and end of your waterfall charts. But it better be actual bullion, not gold in circuit or fucking whatever, like inventory or some shit. It's got to be actual bloody bars because that's the only other thing I'll accept. Do not include other listed assets in the basis of the waterfall chart, like shares. They don't count, all right? Here's a bad example of what not to do. Does this one look familiar? Anyway, I won't put the company name at the top of that one yet.
So that one thing you notice is there is actually no values on those columns.
Mate, that's another rule.
Oh, that's a whole other rule. Sorry. Yeah, right.
Okay. Principle number 2. End of month means end of month. You don't get to include cash that came in the door on July 1st. At 30 June, it was a trade receivable, right? This is a cash flow waterfall, not a fucking balance sheet. The culprits that do this, we don't see you including your trade payables in your cash waterfall. So what makes you think you can include fucking trade receivables? Here's a bad example of what not to do. Except it might not be obvious straight away because you have to locate the footnote in the quarterly, which tells you how they stretched the definition of other liquid assets to include fucking the value of gold sold at or near the end of the respective reporting period and for which the cash was received by the company at the commencement of the following reporting period. What a fucking joke. That's not fucking cash.
But then that gets included in the next one as well.
Mate, they double count the shit. 100%. Point number 3. Separate every item. The more separation, the better. There should be not a single and for any item in your waterfall chart, right? If you're uncertain, fucking separate it, okay? Like, do not group categories together. If you're trying to group 2 items together, it's because the negative one of those items can offset the positive of the other, and you just want to obfuscate things a little bit. Don't do this. Here's a bad example of what not to do.
Trav, I think you mean obfuscate.
Oh, fuck.
No, he's just he could say whatever he wants. It's his segment.
You still can't say it, right?
It was the second time, so I thought I'd look after you.
Thanks, mate. This one, look at what he's grouped together here. Net OPEX plus IPO plus interest. Like, what the actual fuck? That is the most absurd clumping of line items I've ever seen. There's just no rationale to group those 3 things together, ever.
Second time that same chart is being flashed up.
I'm starting to think the feedback we got from a certain listener that our show was they were offended by the swearing of one person in particular. I thought it was me, but I think it might be Trav.
I think since that message, Trav has leaned into it so hard and has ramped up his use of F-bombs.
Only when justified.
Go, Trav.
So there's a bunch of these grouping things that I want to see less of, right? And you see it all the time. It shits me. Grouping debt repayments with the interest and the additional drawdowns, show them separately. Grouping development capex of your growth project with the sustaining capex of your operating project, put them fucking separately. Grouping the operating cash flow of your 2 operating projects together, so I can't tell which one's actually driving the numbers. Like, put them separately. Grouping corporate costs with income tax. Like, what? Doesn't make sense.
Because you want to know the corporate costs.
I do. I want more detail, not less. Don't group shit together. Just do it separately.
Okay.
Point number 4.
Principle number 4, Trav.
Do not hide a one-off inflow of cash from something extraordinary. So this principle is kind of an extension of the previous rule in some ways, but companies will often have like a once-off material cash movement for whatever reason. And when those cash movements are more cash, sometimes we see companies throwing that where it doesn't belong. Think the sale of some listed shares that the company had on its books, or proceeds in the door from staged payments because they sold a non-core asset. Just make sure you spell those, once-off or extraordinary items out and separate them so it doesn't look like you're actually making more money than you are.
Mm-hmm. Principle number 5.
Put numbers on the bars.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Honestly, I thought this would be a no-brainer. I don't want to have to pull out a ruler on my screen and measure the length of the bars because you threw up a waterfall chart with no numbers or grid lines. Once again, here's an example of what not to do. Does this chart look familiar?
At least put a scale on there so you can use a 1 to 100 or something.
Jesus. All right, I've got one more principle. This is like a bonus principle. If you really want bonus points this quarterly season, include your creditor position. It's not in the waterfall charts. You don't have to do that. But just for completeness, include a sentence in your quarterlies that says what your trade and other payables are at the end of the quarter. That's the gold standard.
Yeah. So could you do that if you included... So you can't include trade receivables.
It's a cash waterfall. It's not a
put them on but you can put a trade receivables and payables as dot points below.
If you want to talk about what you got coming in the door in the first week, sure. But just make sure. Yeah, I think it's just for completeness. Include your creditor position.
Yeah, I'm just double making sure. I'm just trying to make sure everyone knows the right thing to do here. God, far out. How many bloody jobs have been people's hours reduced after this? Like, they can't justify the hours in a day now. You've done it for them, Ricardinho.
No worries, mate.
God, far out. In the presence of glory. JD, Trav, Boss Energy, BOE, the bloody newest Australian uranium producer. They've, I think this the pick of the drums. I think, were they talking to you, JD? It was a way of communicating.
I think they slipped this one in for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We might have encouraged them, maybe not. Maybe they just wanted to get him in there for their fans out there. But lo and behold, they've produced £57,000 since they got started at Honeymoon. Now, there might be a bit more than meets the eye to that £57,000, given the circuit will essentially be loaded up, right, Matty?
Yeah, I think our understanding is like maybe, I don't know, half of that, £30,000 or something, is probably in the circuit as an inventory. So I think
that sounds about right.
They said produced £57,000, but I'm not sure that's 57,000 drummed.
No.
Yeah, so
that's right.
Yeah, happy to be corrected on that, but that's our probably interpretation.
Yeah, that's our sort of understanding. So they're working off one column at the moment, and they mentioned that they've got columns 2 and 3 to be commissioned by the end of this calendar year. And importantly, the first sale of uranium should happen later this quarter. That's a good thing on the cash front, although they're not too hard pressed with cash not being an awful concern at the moment, given they've got quite a bit drummed up and they've done raises and whatnot.
Yeah. So what? Anything on the guidance, JD? Going forward?
Yeah. So we've got a bit of guidance now, and we know these in situ projects take a while to get to full speed. So they're talking about £850,000 by this time next year. I read that as including the 57,000 that's already been produced to date. Duncan then went as far as to say £1.6 million in FY26. And then full year three of production is when they're going to get to that nameplate, £2.45 million in a year. Now, according to the company, just reading through the sort of 4-page announcement today, everything was exceeding expectations. There wasn't a single aspect of ramp up that wasn't at least matching what they'd put out in the study or design sort of phase, which is
JD, it's a good news company.
Why would you put bad news in?
It's especially a good news company.
You don't have to, This isn't a quarterly after all. So,
mate, if you've got a bad sentence or word in any announcement, you can just change it for a good one.
Mate, with that sort of attitude, you deserve a job at Boss.
Investor Relations 101 right there.
So there's plenty of aspects of ramp up that didn't get mentioned, but I think we're just going to have to wait a bit longer, fellas, to see what they sort of are. I'm keen to see comprehensive figures. Ultimately, we can get into the weeds, but we want to see how profitable this mine is in the near term. We know it's going to take a little while before they pull the cost down and everything, but I'm very keen to see how the profitability matches up, how the actual guidance and on the cost front faces up with what they came out with the studies. As a reminder, the all-in sustaining cost was $26 a pound, and the all-in cost they were talking about was $32 a pound. Now, they're fairly old numbers now from early 2022. And for a mine that shut down in part due to technical difficulties, it's pretty remarkable. So very keen to see whether ramp up is as rosy as the picture they've painted in due time. Given the technical difficulties they did have when the company that owned the operation was Uranium One, things have changed. There's a bit of a different extraction method as we've gone through in the past, but hopefully the full quarterly at the end of this month gives us a bit more colour. And then in terms of cash flow, I think we're going to have to wait a little while longer, obviously, with no cash really coming in the door just yet.
Yeah, so you can't effectively, you can on the costs and the everything, but in terms of production, you can't really judge for another bloody 3 years from now to see, because that is how long it's going to, till we know if they're going to hit that nameplate.
Well, I mean, there are some numbers that we should be able to get a read on earlier, right? So, I mean, ion exchange, as I understand, it's as simple as what's your flow rate times the grade times the recovery equals your production. And so, look, steady state recovery might take a good chunk of time to figure out, but we should be able to have some visibility on flow rate and grade before that. And here, we have, I think zero color on what the flow rate is. Like on the grade, right? You look at the highlights of the announcement, and it says wellfields continue to average 80 to 100 milligrams per litre versus feasibility study estimate of 47 milligrams per litre. Milligrams per litre is the same as ppm, basically.
Yeah.
But then you go to page 2, where re-references that same thing, but the wording's a bit different here, Matty JD. It says, wellfield performance continues to impress with tenors from individual wellfields into the PLS averaging 80 to 100 milligrams per litre. So the whole grade of the PLS isn't that. It's from individual wellfields into the PLS. So I'm left more confused than ever trying to understand what the actual number is.
Okay, yeah. So you'd assume the other ones aren't above that.
And why is the average range anyway? Anyway, it's just if you can explain the arithmetic, fucking boss, anyone, please explain to me.
God, it's amazing how much you can learn about a topic when you think there's something wrong. Oh, righto.
Beauty.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is just all about how the resource evolves over time as well. Like, you know, no one's talked about that better than Mike Bevan in his spectacular episode. And you can kind of see some of the risks that might happen over time, maybe not straight away, but over time with the depletion of this resource as a result of some of the longer term assumptions with it.
Yes. It's
hopefully a lot of those numbers sort of come out in the quarterly. Like you say, we shouldn't get the full indication of what recoveries look like, or we wouldn't expect it to be completely humming after one quarter. But there are numbers that the company will definitely be able to wrap around it this month. Talk
about being bloody bulletproof or semi-bulletproof with all that frigging cash and inventory they've got. Far out. It's not a bad spot to be in, jamming that equity raise in when they did. So, yeah.
Pretty envious position, right?
Very much so. No, very good. We have our bloody eyes on it. Westgold Capricorn pre-quarterly's out today. Both making cash. I think gold's pretty well up across the board today. So, but yeah, what do we got? Westgold first, up 4%, back up around $2.50. They bloody, they were down $2.10 when the Matty Michaels pod was going to start injecting some funds in. But anyway, another missed opportunity for the hedgies out there. So
we should have listened.
Yeah. So cash, bullion, and liquid investments build of over $16 for the quarter, plus a divvy, $1.25 a share, 1.25 cent per share, fully franked divvy. So full year divvy payments, 2.25 cents a share. She's a yield play, boys. So yeah, anything else bloody get your attention on this one, lads?
Oh, mate, we don't often talk about a divvy on the show, so it's pretty special. But to put it into context, they paid out a bit over $10 for the year, so credit to them, but it's not a crazy amount. They produced 227,000 ounces for FY24. They met their revised guidance. Of course, that was revised down due to the rain that hit a whole bunch of the mid-cap goldies in and around the same geography there. But, Westgold can quite rightfully be proud of this chart that they continue to show. They're sort of putting cash and building it quarter on quarter. They got 6 in a row. I think they advertise now that they've built cash. So all up, FY24 saw them add $71 million. In terms of free cash flow, it's roughly sort of $60 million that they produced. The company's got an EV now after the kick up, like you say, Matty, in the stock price of roughly $950 million. So if we're going to talk about valuations and whatnot, I don't think it's exactly cheap. Probably on par with a lot of the other names in and around the sort of same scale and size. But $60 million in free cash flow. I'm sure the company's going to hope they can grow that, and they should grow that. They've done a bit of investment now in operations and see that grow. I think.
Yeah, do you think the divvies are part of a whole rating side of things? It's like, as you said, it's not a massive divvy, but it's about 1% divvy for the year.
I think it just helps win over a shareholder base. They like to see a good capital management framework set in place, regardless of the nominal amounts, and it just helps win people over, right? Yeah. So if they continue to do that, and they do that as the scale gets a little bit bigger, then it just adds to the narrative of a well managed company, and they've been rewarded pretty well for it, guys. I mean, if we look back 12 months, they ended the last financial year at $1.44 was the share price. They ended June 30th a few days ago about $1 higher. So that's pretty strong growth. They continued to perform better. They invested in the assets. Production sort of improved across the board. So they were checking a lot of boxes on their way to just being a bigger, sort of more profitable, reliable business. And, you know, if you try and hone in on this quarter's numbers, you're not going to find out too much. I mean, 16 million, like you said, Matty, in net inflows, but they've done that little thing of lumping together liquid assets. So it gets a bit hairy if you try and back out what actually went out the door. We're just going to have to wait for the full quarterly at the end of the month.
Yeah, because cash bullion and liquid investments. So liquid investments, I assume that's the Aura stake is going to be part of that. But I wonder if they hold less than 5% of something else, they would still have to disclose it in their quarterly as a liquid investment or not? The specific company.
They wouldn't have to disclose the name of it, but, you know, the company would be in their interest to show it as a liquid investment in the cash pile.
Yeah.
And then because the particular quarterly that's just finished is the end of year, when the full financials come out, that's going to be in the balance sheet as that sort of snapshot at a point in time on June 30 under liquid investments.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the market darling Capricorn, JD?
Very much the market darling, mate. This one's brief again, just a pre-quarterly. So production was up slightly on the March quarter, a bit over 26,000 ounces in the quarter just gone, 113,000 for the year. Pretty similar to Westgold. They were disrupted by the weather, which meant they revised guidance down. They gave ounce guidance for the coming year between 110 and 120,000 ounces, but no cost. That's still to come. At the end of the quarter, they had 125 million in cash and gold. Now, you'll remember we spoke about them forking out $70 to chalk off a part of the hedge book not too long ago. So if you put that aside, the company said that they made 25 million from operations at Karlawinda in the most recent quarter. So you've, of course, got Mount Gibson taking up a bit of cash. They're building the accommodation, the sort of 400 rooms are being put in place there. They've budgeted 260 million all up for that. So, you know, beyond the early works continuing over there at Mount Gibson, we're a bit skinny on info. It's only a couple pages, this one, so we'll have to wait for the full numbers. But similar to Westgold in that, you know, you say market darling, Matty, they got quite a rich valuation and they just need to execute on the build at Mount Gibson and generate cash from that one over time because it's you know, fully valued for a high quality management team.
Yeah, and I couldn't believe, look, and I'll bring up the screenshot, how just the milled tons, how ridiculously consistent they are, like nearly bang on 1 million ton per quarter. So like probably mill reliability and everything, but, you know, also all haulage reliability by the contractor. So they're doing a good job. I just looked at those numbers and I thought, are Mineral Mining Services the contractor out there? But I remembered they aren't. It's Macca, isn't it?
Unfortunately.
No, like just because like looking at that, I thought it was an MMS jobby.
Yeah,
because, you know, after we caught up with the lads the other night, like, holy snap and duck shit, I felt even like I wanted to become a digger operator or a truck driver. Like, what a bunch of legends on the fingers on the pulse. Brilliant mod.
mate, the open pit, phenomenal mining specialists these guys are.
Yeah. Like, gee, they love a good JV arrangement too.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Going outside the bloody normal, what we consider a normal box. So, mate, any small miners out there that are looking for a bit of a cool method to get some cash in the door without hitting up a bank or the market, mate, MMS, they're much more than an open pit contractor, mate.
They're nimble, they're lean, they'll you know, come up with these funky arrangements to share the risk and the upside, but sometimes that's what it requires to bloody get into production. And MMS, mate, they're the new name, but they're really moving the dial.
Yeah,
Josh,
I had
Adrian,
three
legends.
I had three pints when I was drinking with them and I was still blowing zeros at the end. Like, they are that good. Like, they're unbelievable. Mate, anyone want a job with them? Head to the bloody link in the show notes. Bloody get on a digger or a truck for MMS. Bloody legends. Anyway, another market darling, Chalice.
A favourite of the money miners, Chalice. They
What's
signed
going on here, JD?
Mate, they signed an MOU, a non-binding MOU with Mitsubishi, a big name. So you think, oh, yeah, that might go all right. They bloody copped it. So this was yesterday, this one came out, and they were down 20% on the day. They've recovered a bit, up 5% today. Like you said at the beginning of the show, Matty, we saw a little write-up in the fin for these guys. So the way they kind of pitch it or sell the story is that this could be the start of a big, beautiful relationship with the Japanese conglomerate. And it's no secret that they've been after a partner for quite a while. We'll flash up an announcement from about a year ago. And you can see here, at the time, Chalice reported saying, we've got strong interest from a wide range of end user, trading and mining counterparties. So you see that, and then you see the market's reaction yesterday, and you think, hang on, something's not quite right. Clearly, the expectations of what a partnership should have looked like is very different to, what the market was actually wanting. And I think the market, in doing so, is saying, is that all you've got after a year of negotiations?
Yeah, I just remember talk of this partnering process for ages. I found this in the September 2022 quarterly. Chalice is considering securing a strategic minority joint venture partner or partners to assist in developing a potential mine at Gonaville. So it's been a fair while, right? And people have kind of been clinging on to hopes of a validation from an external party. Of course, since then, more information about the resources come out, the scoping studies come out, and I just think expectations of a firm commitment from a Japanese partner versus reality are absent. It wasn't that long ago.
As an MOU, I can just write one now and give it to you. Eh?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I will do something for you.
Yes.
Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, you saw Ardea come out. They had a binding framework or something not too long ago, and I mean that came off the back of some stuff before that finally led to this binding framework or whatever. But there's stages of firmness you can get to in getting a partner, and this is as sort of like flimsy as they get. Yeah. Yeah. It's not what you want to see after been talking about this since September 2022.
Well, yeah.
I think
the spark chart can tell you what the market thought of it, because she's a bloody big, fat, long, bloody red candle there.
And Mitsubishi's it's a good name to sort of associate with. And you kind of mention the Ardea one there, Trav. That was, like you say, one step better, because they actually put forward and stumped up with Sumitomo to pay $98 to at least do the DFS and pay for that DFS. So, it goes one step further. Oh,
the old name drop's a powerful thing, isn't it? So, you look at like Pilbara Minerals, for instance. Look at the bloody share price holding on there with depressed lithium prices just because they're partnered with Silverstone. Like the name drop there. Hasn't that been worth billions for them?
Massive.
Bloody God, because the Silverstone partnership's the only one that makes sense to me. Like of why it's sort of everyone's talking about Aussie Super propping it up, but I think it's like the market's re-rated Pilbara or maintained the rating for the Silverstone partnership.
Aussie Super wouldn't have power. Pilbara wouldn't have power without Silverstone, so it's literally Silverstone.
Oh, that'd be $1 for sure. Yeah. That's I found this actually. Look at the one word that sticks out on the Silverstone website. Highlighted it here, turnkey.
I'm glad you highlighted that one and not hazardous.
Yeah. Oh, mate, when Silverstone aren't raising money for charities, they're just aiding mining companies making money, which effectively a charity in itself. So, we
know that for a fact as well, fellas. We get regular photos from the MD up there on the site doing the job.
Yeah, just making them money. God.
Relatable fella.
Turnkey.
Yeah, so where's this put Mitsubishi in the...
Like you guys kind of say, it puts them at the front of the queue, and it's not a very long queue. So when the PFS comes out, within 90 days, they've got first priority to come to some sort of agreement. It's non-exclusive, but obviously Mitsubishi is not having to give up anything really to put their foot down. So I don't really see Chalice moving too far anywhere soon, although we have spoken a bit about PGMs, which are in a real tough spot. And Chalice, to an extent, ignores this side. They really talk up the critical minerals, the nickel, the copper of the project, and they try and push the PGM aspect to one side. But, if PGMs have eaten into the cost curve for long enough, when that day comes, they could look attractive again. And I wonder if the company will promote that aspect of the business. But that sort of said that the company has to do a bunch of work on MET and all these other sort of challenges before they get there. But in the meantime, they've had a bit of a win on Encounter.
Hey, why do you even need a partner, or why do you have to mine nickel or PGMs when you can bloody 3 or 4 bag your money on Encounter? Oh,
just punt the company funds. Come on.
Yes, get
on with it.
What a bloody...
I actually think you've they've already changed the tunes on PGMs. Like in the pres that went up yesterday, Arvo, Chalice is the largest palladium nickel copper development project. So palladium's at the front now. Slide 4 is a full future demand for palladium slide. So I think they have, JD, by the way. There you go.
I think you could be right. I think there's a bit more, and maybe they could do a bit more in winning over the public on that sort of front. If you read the article, they're talking about the nickel aspects in the fin on these sorts of things. But it makes full sense for them to talk up all aspects of it. I mean, not that PGMs are awfully attractive right now, but maybe their day will come.
Bloody beautiful. Good stuff, lads. Mate, we've got a rip snorter coming out tomorrow.
Yes. Cole.
She's a bloody Cole episode.
Matt Water.
Yeah, isn't he just the fucking nicest bloke you could meet? And Jesus Christ, he knows his shit about the black dust. Yeah, holy bloody good yarn. Very good yarn. Coal Trader Substack. Check it out if you want to do a bit of pre-reading before the big drop. Right, thanks to the bloody partners. Our bloody, the cornerstone. Axis Mining Technology. Champ Ori, champion people.
Mineral Mining Services.
Yeah, MMS, thanks for coming on board.
WA Waterfall's in the show.
Oh, yeah. And wait, there's more. VRIFY, GetWet Solutions.
DSI Underground, Silverstone, CRE Insurance, K-Drill.
No, we didn't even have WA. We had WA Waterballs in tomorrow's show. Oh, that's all right. We had Silverstone in the show.
Spark. Yeah.
Yeah, woo. Hootaroo, Money Miners.
Oh, hootaroo.
The information contained in this episode of Money of Mine is of general nature only and does not take into account the objectives, financial situation or needs of any particular person. Before making any investment decision, you should consult with your financial advisor and consider how appropriate the advice is to your objectives, financial situation and needs.